Thank you so much, Scott. For years, I've been sharing with you how you can use Visual Studio Team Services to implement DevOps in your organizations. But I've constantly been asked, but does it scale? So today, I'm going to share with you how we use Visual Studio Team Services to implement DevOps here at Microsoft. VSTS is planned, versioned, built, and deployed using VSTS. A team of over 500 engineers merging into master every day, producing over 600 pull requests, hundreds of builds, and running tens of thousands of unit tests, all the while deploying multiple times a day. Let's walk through a typical day of an engineer on one of the 50 feature teams that bring you VSTS every single day. The day begins in our team room, and on our Surface Hub is this dashboard. This is the roadmap to our success, the game plan for our sprint. I can customize it however I need to. It shows me what my team has committed to do. It shows me how many days are left in our sprint, and even shows me what work is currently assigned to me. Speaking of the work assigned to me, do you remember when your bugs were in one system, your requirements were in another system, and your tasks were in yet another system? Don't even ask about where our tests were. And by this awkward silence, I have a feeling that most of you still live in that world. But with VSTS, those days are behind us. Not only can I see everything from dev, ops, and QA in one place, on my product backlog, I can see it in priority order so that my team focuses on the most important things first. And as we grab that most important item, I have to share my status. If you're anything like me, you hate writing a status report. The only thing worse than writing one is reading one. But I always felt that that time was better spent adding value to my product. And that's why I love our Kanban board. Our Kanban board, it's like a real-time status report. At a glance, I can see what everyone on my team is working on. I can see if anything's lagging behind that needs our attention. And to update my status, I simply drag and drop. But this actually is where we build VSTS, so I'm just going to put this item back where it came from. Now, on the VSTS team, we actually use Git. And you know what that means? Branches, and lots of them. I used to create so many branches, I would forget why I created the branch. But when you actually create a branch from here on the Kanban board, you actually make an association between this branch and this work item. No matter how long I've been away, I know exactly why I created that branch. It doesn't stop there. Every commit to that branch, every build that is triggered, every release that is deployed is also associated with that work item. Think about that. That is full traceability. I can open up this work item and I can show you every line of code that was changed, every build that was run, every test that was executed, and what environment it is in simply by creating this branch. Now, all those branches eventually have to come together. And as you can see here, we can merge right here inside of our tool. But we don't just merge into master. We go through what we call a pull request. Now, I've been writing software for over 20 years. Some of you are smirking, but I'm much older than I look. The reason that I've written software for so long is because it's fun. And I want my pull request experience to also be fun. I want to communicate with my peers the same way I would on any social media. If an emoji or a meme is the best way to share your expression, you can do that. And if you see that one change of code, you know that change. That change that just gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling, that you just know that was a hot piece of code. You can show it right here in your PR. Ooh, that feels so good. You know that code I'm talking about. But a pull request has to be more than just fun. A pull request has to be effective. It has to protect your master branch. So instead of me just writing emojis and using GIFs, what I'm also able to do is actually come in here and run builds. Rerun an amazing 64,000 unit tests against every single pull request. We do this over 600 times a day, making sure that master is solid. Our pull request experience is one of the best I've ever used. Now, the pull request is just the first gate that the code has to go through to get to production. After you survive a pull request, you then go through our CI system. Our CI system runs another battery of tests against your application. This is us constantly running tests against the builds that we're producing to make sure that we only ship the highest quality code to our end users. We want to take this value and we want to move it from the fingertips of our developers and put it into the hands of our users. And we do that practicing safe deployment. Safe deployment is where we deploy the code inside of an environment, and we actually use the code in that environment. That first ring there, that is ring 0. That is where the VSTS team actually works. We dog food everything that we give to you. We make sure that it works for us before we ever force it upon you. We're monitoring telemetry. We're looking for any issues. And if and only if everything goes green, do we deploy it to the next ring, where we repeat this exact same process, monitoring telemetry and looking for issues. The telemetry that you monitor is crucial to your success, and that is where Application Insights comes in. Application Insights allows me to monitor not only my application, but the infrastructure upon which it runs. I can check my application for server errors, for response times. I can also check my infrastructure for security vulnerabilities and attacks. If anything needs my attention, I will be alerted right here on the dashboard. Imagine a time where I don't have to monitor this myself. Imagine a time where this information is automatically incorporated inside of my DevOps pipeline, where my pipeline can take action. Well, I'm really excited to tell you that that time is now. Inside of release management, I can come in and I can configure a new feature, which is called gates. A gate allows me to use Application Insights to monitor my alerts. And should any of those alerts fire, the release will protect me from deploying code that should not be in the next environment. I can go further than that. I can actually have it run queries against my work items to see if any issues have been logged by my users during the use and deployment of my software. And if so, protect us by saying you do not want to deploy this yet. If that's not enough, I can even come in here and write an arbitrary Azure function or call a REST API to ensure my code is healthy before we push it to the next environment. And when everything goes green, we'll give you a signal that it's safe for you to deploy your code. Here we can see that we were struggling. Not all of our gates were correct. And release management said, now's not the time. Now is not the time. Now it's time. Everything is settled down. Your application is safe. Now you can safely deploy it into the next environment. We have automated safe deployment, taking what used to be manual and now allowing anyone to actually do this. So I've just given you a glimpse of what we do on the VSTS team. But if you're still questioning on if this can scale or not, we not only do this for us, we also do it for Windows. 25,000 engineers working on a single code base use VSTS every single day. So does it scale? Oh boy, yeah, it scales. If we can handle Windows, we can handle you as well. Now the next question is, Donovan, all amazing. Sign me up, I'll take it. But how do I get started? I don't know anything about .NET because I'm assuming you're Microsoft, so it has to be .NET on Windows, right? And I don't know anything about DevOps. This is the first time I've heard of it. I'm pretty good with Azure, but I've never even seen VSTS before. So how do I go about building this? Well, you start with Azure. We have a new Getting Started experience in Azure that allows you to use whatever language that you want. And we'll even create a VSTS account for you. And you can tell that this is not your daddy's Microsoft. PHP, Java, and Node. And we know you want to run your Java in a container. You want to run your Node on Linux. And if you want to build the mobile app that James showed you, you got to build that on a Mac. We are with you every step of the way. This is not just a new era for Microsoft. This is a new era for all of us. Because when we combine the power of Azure and Visual Studio Team Services, we empower everyone using any language and targeting any platform. Let me show you how it works. Let's go ahead and choose Java, because I know you don't believe me. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. I get to choose whatever framework that I want. And then I get to choose what infrastructure upon which I want to run my application. Let's go ahead and do containers. We've been talking about that all day. If you do not have a VSTS account, we will create one for you. But I happen to have one. Actually, I happen to have plenty of them. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of my existing accounts. And now all I have to do is give my project a name. So we're going to call it Smart Hotel 360 and simply click on Done. Now I sit back and I relax. I simply wait for Visual Studio Team Services and Azure to work together to build an entire DevOps pipeline for me. What's going to happen at the end is if I click on this, you're going to see that right here I have a dashboard inside of Azure that gives me access to the commits I have inside of VSTS, the builds that I've run, the release that is actually run. And if you'll notice, I also have access to my resources here in Azure, and at the bottom, this Java app running in a container is already sending us custom telemetry into Application Insights. We're putting you well on your way to building the same pipeline I showed you before. We have never made it easier for you to rub a little DevOps on it and make it better. So what I want you to remember is that DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. So when you go back to work on Monday, do not try to convince the others. Do not ask for permission. You just go do the right thing for your company. Thank you so much, everyone.